This is the Mainframe Connect podcast, brought to you by the Linux Foundation's Open Mainframe project. Sponsored by Phoenix Software International and by Infinity, a Converge company. Mainframe Connect includes the I Am a Mainframer series, the Riveting Mainframe Voices series, and other content exploring relevant topics with mainframe professionals and offering insights into the industry and technology. Today's episode is from the 10-part Mainframe Coven mini-series, honoring the past, present, and future women of IT.
Well, hello and welcome to Mainframe Coven, a podcast about real stories from the essential yet often unseen minds behind the machines. We are your hosts. My name is Jessielaine Punongbayan, and I'm a product manager for Dynatrace.
My name is Richelle Anne Craw, and I'm a software engineer for Beta Systems Software. Welcome to our new episode. I'm so excited. Joining us today is Meredith Stowell, Vice President of ibm.biz and LinuxONE ecosystem. She has led incredible work building global communities, scaling apprenticeship programs, and creating non-traditional pathways for hidden tech talent to thrive.
Thank you so much, Meredith, for joining us today, and welcome officially to the Coven.
Yeah, welcome.
Much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, of course. It's our pleasure. Had such an inspiring career journey in tech, and you've been a leader at IBM for quite some time. Can you share a bit about how you first got into technology and what drew you to this field?
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so it definitely wasn't college. I actually graduated as with a BSFS, a Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service. And so with a focus on international economics, finance and commerce, and international business diplomacy. Now, I will say the international business diplomacy I use every day in this job. Because when you're creating a community, when you're working with an ecosystem and you're bringing everybody together, it truly is bringing together that diplomacy and leveraging those communication skills to find that win-win-win-win solution. Right. But I would say, so I actually started as a financial analyst and an operations analyst. And then when I was in I think it was my second job, they said, hey, Meredith, we need you, since you do a lot of the operations, we need you to go and implement this piece of our new ERP system that we're implementing. And that just so happened to be Cognos, the business intelligence tools. And I fell in love. I fell in love with technology. I fell in love with how technology could make my job as an analyst so much easier. It was able to enable me, instead of focusing on all of the different data joins and pulling the data together, I could actually do the analytics and actually add that additional value. And so I loved it, and I loved it so much that I wanted to help others start to implement this. And that's when I started working for Cognos as an implementation consultant. And so working with clients, all within the US at that time, to say, hey, how can you leverage technology to get more out of your data, and more importantly, make more use of your time to add that value from an analytics perspective. And from an analysis, and then actually make those higher level business decisions that are data-based. And so that's how I got into technology. From there, we were acquired by IBM. I really loved how technology was able to help people to do their jobs better. But then what I really found was when I came into kind of management and leadership, I loved how can you help individuals become the best that they can be?
Yeah, it sounds like there's some user focus that you are drawn into in your career. But I want to know, was there a pivotal moment or turning point in that career where you realized that you were ready to be a leader or step into a leadership role?
Okay, yes. Let's see. Oh, there are so many, right? There are so many moments, but I'll tell you the biggest moment for me.
Okay.
The one where I kind of put myself out there and said, okay, I'm going to risk this because I'm going to see if it works. And either I am going to completely fall on my face or I'm going to be a success, and there's nothing in between. And that was, I was within our business analytics group, leading enablement and working with sales and sales methodology and kind of leading more theoretical of here's how, from a sales perspective, the sales progression and all of this. And a position opened up in a totally different group. And what they were looking for was a transformational leader. And I knew that, hey, if I really want to go someplace within IBM or any organization, being able to truly transform a team from underperforming to a high performing team is a skill that's going to be that I can use anywhere. And so, and I said, I've been teaching the sales methodology and I've been teaching the theory. Can I really go put it into practice and make it change? And so I said, okay, I'm going to go try this thing out. It was in a totally different group within IBM. Didn't know anybody there. It's like going to a whole new company, except just the systems are the same. And like I said, either I'm going to completely fall on my face and we're not going to be able to transform this team, or we're going to fail, or we're going to take this team to whole new heights. And that's what I did.
So it's so cool that you took a risk and the risk paid off and the community benefited as well.
Yeah, it's a very great story. So I was reading one of your like interviews and one on or articles, and you mentioned about non-traditional pathways. And I know that you're an advocate for like non-traditional pathways in tech. Would you say that you've used that kind of pathway to have that successful um integration with your team, or can you elaborate more on what you meant by that?
So it's interesting. When I started my work with universities and started doing some of the work on the degrees, I really got a behind the scenes look, right, at the education system. And also looking at understanding how it works and how it's great for some, but not necessarily for everyone, right? And when I came into the role where we were trying to really help to build the skills in the talent pipeline for Z, and I still see this today. The default reaction to how do we build skills for Z, for the mainframe, the default is always, what are we doing in universities? What are we doing in universities? What are we doing in universities? And what I found is that, yes, you need that. You absolutely need those traditional paths. But there is an entire untapped opportunity and potential in individuals who may not have gone through the traditional path. Maybe they did go through university, but they did something, maybe they did music or some other degree that was nothing technical, like mine, right? Or what about individuals that are coming back into the workforce? They've taken a break and they want to come back into the workforce. What about individuals who are career changers? They want to do something completely different. What about individuals who, like I said, maybe they didn't go through university at all, but they have always wanted to get into IT, but there was never a path. It could also be veterans. In fact, that's where this started. I was at dinner with some folks and we were talking about the skills and how we need to build new pathways for skills for the mainframe. And I said, Meredith, how can we get more veterans involved in that? How can we bring these programs to veterans? And that's what kind of sparked wow, what can we do? And I was a civilian working for the military at one point in my career. That's where I started. And I'm like, you know what? There are all types of transition assistance programs and things like that for the military. Why can't we put mainframe in front of them to be, you can go into this path? That's about the time when apprenticeships within the US had just started kind of taking hold from an IT perspective versus just your traditional trades. Also, I had the opportunity to see this in action in the UK. I absolutely love the UK's program of what they call degree apprenticeship. The way that the degree apprenticeship program works is you go to school 1 day a week, and then you spend the other 4 days actually working. And then at the end of 2 years, the end of 4 years, you get your degree. But it's a practical degree. And I was like, wow, that is great. And then, of course, there are other countries that have other types of vocational, what they'll call vocational type of learning and paths. And I'm like, why can't we do this with the mainframe? The mainframe has specialized skills, right? There are specialized skills that are needed, but you can learn those. Yes, you need to have the aptitude and you need to have the affinity towards the technology, but we can take a look at that and figure this out. How can we create an easy button? My team will always be like, oh my gosh, Meredith and her easy buttons. But it really is. It's got to be as easy as possible, because otherwise nobody's going to adopt it. And you're not going to get easy until you start to iterate and figure out where are the different blockers, and then how do you remove those blockers. So it doesn't happen overnight, right? But it's being able to open up the pathway for individuals who previously didn't think that they had even a chance, because one, companies, many companies have always required a university degree. So first, you got to change that, right? Secondly, when you look at entry-level positions today, so many of them require experience. It's an entry-level position. How in the world are you going to be able to get into an entry-level position if it requires experience? So there are all these barriers in place that just, industry says we have a skills problem. There are people that want to go into it, but there's no pathway into it. So that's where we began working on this apprenticeship program and creating a competency framework for the highest needed skills. And in that sense, it's the sysadmin, sysoperator, system engineer, whatever you want to call it, SRE, and the application development. And really providing, here are the competencies that need to be gained. Here's the training that will help you to achieve those competencies, but you can't achieve those competencies without experience. And that's how we kind of came up. That's the concept of an apprenticeship, right? Is that it's not just about how do you, it's not just about learning. It's not about, hey, go to a boot camp and we're going to fire hose you with information. No, it's here's information. Now go apply it. Here's more, go apply more and apply.
Hands-on experiences.
It's the experience, right? And so being able to just open those pathways for individuals, then we worked with a lot of different clients to implement this, and it has been so successful.
That's awesome. And I agree with you. I mean, you really learn faster when you're doing some work, not just like sitting on a school like writing, but when you're doing it and you learning from while studying, it helps. And me as a mentor as well, I can learn from my mentees, because they have questions, they have point of views that's different than mine.
Yeah.
And that's really effective, honestly.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, examples of the non-traditional, because kind of going back to your question that we've seen truck drivers who may have been, they were disabled and now they're sysadmins. I was just talking earlier today about talking about veterans. We were able to get this program into the transition assistance programs, and we've had a husband and wife, right, who have gotten together. One of them was coming out of the service. The other was like, hey, I want to do something. They both found the apprenticeship program, and now they're both sysadmins, right? You've got individuals who were previously in the service, from a restaurant perspective, right? And in 2020, and with COVID, they lost their job and they were looking for something different. Now they're happy sysadmins. I mean, it's incredible. You can have one of my favorite ones was there's one individual, and again, these are with our clients, not necessarily all with IBM, but we had one individual, she was a country singer on a cruise ship. And lost her job, right? When the pandemic hit, and she had always wanted to go into IT, but there was never an opening. She did not want to go to university. That wasn't her jam. She found this program, and so many people, they'll say, I found this program and I didn't think it was real. I thought it was a fluke. And so I applied for it, and look at where I am today. This thing is amazing. And when they graduate from the program, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to go to the graduations and hear the stories and see the success. And every single person always states, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And that's what was needed. They just needed the door to be opened so that they could walk through it. And they took the risk, right? And walked through it. And now they're thriving.
Yeah, even if they don't have the traditional IT degrees, technical degrees, I
Yeah.
think they can see
Right.
that this is a pathway for them. Yeah,
That's right.
and I think it's also future proofing the technology itself, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's turning over that hidden talent and knowing where can you go for this talent, because it's not just Z that has a talent pipeline need.
Yeah.
It's so many different areas within IT, right? I mean, you look at whether it's the skills needed for AI. Now you're looking at how the data centers are booming, the skills that are needed for these data centers. Now you're looking at security and the issues with security and all of this. Now we need security skills. And quite frankly, we need all of that and more just for this
Mm.
platform, because we do all of that, the 360 degrees of IT. And so being able to have different ways to attract the talent and really uncover talent, I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And it's like, it's so nice because it feels like, for groups that are, let's say, underrepresented, or for people who doesn't even know that they could do this, they have this way to break into the field,
That's right.
like they know how to they have a way to start it, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
But you know what? You've got to be intentional, right?
Mm.
As as an employer, and this is one of the things that we've worked with a number of employers, and one of the things that this program that we've done allows is those employers have to be very intentional and say, yes, we want this. So for
Mm-hmm.
example, working with one of the banks, they're a community bank, and the community bank, it's M&T, and they really want to do more for their local community. And one of the ways of doing that is, how can we provide workforce opportunities for these underserved communities?
Yeah.
And so the program specifically targeted and looked for ways of how can we really help this community. And it was very intentional. It's not happenstance,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That it occurred, but really, one, making the effort of, hey, you got to get your HR policies changed to ensure that you can hire individuals that are not, don't necessarily have the degree programs. So it's working with HR, it's working with the hiring managers. I've even had this within my own team of having to shift the mindset of hiring managers to give individuals a chance to shine,
Mm-hmm.
because the immediate knee-jerk reaction of when you need skills is, well, I need somebody who's experienced.
Mm-hmm.
I need someone who's got at least 5+ years of experience. But if we as an entire industry always say that, how in the world are you ever going to get anyone with 5 years experience? We had an individual who had 2 years of experience and couldn't find a job because everything that he was looking at was all 5+ years experience. So we as an industry and as employers need to recognize that, hey, these folks are fantastic. This talent is incredible. And you can learn this technology. It's relatively straightforward to learn it. We've got all kinds of programs and the right training to do that. They just need to be given a chance.
I like what you said about the hiring managers and the mindset shift that has to happen there, because in one of our previous episodes we talked about the systemic gatekeeping of what a software engineer looks like, and we said that if it was if the gatekeeping was designed, then it could be redesigned. And so do you think that these types of program help reframe that narrative that these are the people who should belong in this industry?
Yes, I do. I do. And I think that just like with anything that's new, okay, when you guys go to buy something, right? Like if you're going to go get oh, you know what? Let's say you're going to go on vacation, right?
Mhm.
Because we all want to go on vacation, and you're going to go to someplace new, right? What is the first thing that you do when you go and start searching about what are you going to do and where are you going to go and what?
Y- Yeah,
You look
you
it
look for
you look it up, right?
You look it
I
up.
don't know
yeah.
about you. I always look at blogs that have been
Yeah,
written,
exactly.
right? I look at when I go to book the hotel or the
Yeah.
Airbnb or the
Yep.
VRBO or whatever I'm going to use. I always look at the reviews,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And the photos.
Yeah.
And the photos, right? And
Or look up
so,
YouTube.
or look up YouTube. Oh, totally, totally. And so that's kind of like this. It's a, hey, I may not necessarily want to try something until I see somebody else that's done it, and I want to see proof and I want to see experience with this. So it's really important because a hiring manager is going to go, no way. There's no
Mm.
way. There's no way I can get somebody new who's going to be able to do this. But then if they see maybe another manager talking about, hey, we were able to have this success and it was really great. And oh, hey, look at that person talking about how they've joined and what they're doing today. And whoa, are you kidding me? That person knows that much about MQ and they've only been working with it for 2 years, 3 years. What? So we need to get more, I call it showcase, right? But more success stories out there.
Mm.
And then
Yeah.
the more success stories that you have, that's going to create that flywheel effect. And then hiring managers are going to have a little bit more of a comfort zone to say, okay, I'm willing to do this.
I've been reading one of your interviews and you mentioned that in one of your presentations, there was a female junior high student that asked you that, do they make fun of you for being a girl in IT? So with all of these mentorship apprenticeships that you're doing, do you believe that, or do you think that she could move past those doubts and see herself as that she has a place to belong here in our industry?
I am so glad you brought that up. That was a heart-wrenching one, right? Because you think as as a female in this industry, you've seen progress and you
Yeah.
see the success that other females have had, right? And the goal is that that next generation or whoever it is that, oh yeah, I can do anything. I can go into IT.
Yes.
I can do whatever I want,
Yeah.
right? And it's not necessarily this, there's not this gender thing. Um, and so yeah, I was at my son's class, right? And I went in, and I think they were in eighth grade, eighth or ninth, they were in eighth grade. Um, and for her, and I was talking about mainframe, just introducing it and everything to the class, the what happens behind the apps and how the cloud and it's just somebody else's computer, right? And she came up to me afterwards and she asked me that. She said, do they make fun of you as a girl in IT? And I was like, oh my gosh, how can this still be
Yeah.
in this generation after all of the progress, but it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still a challenge. I will tell you, I've also been at hackathons where we've had a women in IT, uh, like a little meetup,
Mm.
and they brought up some heart-wrenching challenges that they had gone through just even at that hackathon and having been harassed, right? And that bothers me.
Mhm.
And again, it's going to take awareness. It's going to take intention. Um, I've seen it happen even as, last year an incident was raised, right? So we as a community need to be one, just very inclusive, right? We need to recognize, and I say this again, it's about intention. We have got to be intentional. We have got to be welcoming to all. And if we see something, do something,
Yeah.
right? Don't let it pass. Be the ally. Be the person there that says, hey, this behavior is not okay,
Mhm.
right? And we've got to stand together because it's still there. And it doesn't matter if it could be anything, right? It could be gender, it could be background, it could be experience, it could be whatever it is, where there is something that's perceived as different, that this could come up. No, we all play a role here. And it's through this, what I'll call diversity of thought, diversity of backgrounds, diversity and geographies, right? That brings innovation. And that is, to me, the secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the key things is it's community. And yes, we have amazing technology. In fact, I had Broadcom brought this up. There was a speaker from Broadcom at Share, and they said, this technology is truly, truly great and amazing, but who actually makes this run? It's the people.
Yeah.
Right. It's the people behind the technology that make this technology so great. And we want to be as inclusive a community as possible. So don't put your blinders on, right? Be intentionally inclusive to all and help be there to raise everyone up. And that goes back, I guess, to that comment I made earlier, which is I love ensuring that people can be the best that they can be, right? No matter what, and no matter where they come from. And that's what we as a community need to be. We need to be there together to raise everybody up, because as we raise people up, we as a whole community become better. And I also know that when I talk with a lot of new to Z folks and ask them, why are you interested in this and what keeps you involved? They say it's the community. The community is so welcoming. And so we truly do overall have an incredibly welcoming community. But we just need to be cognizant that sometimes these things pop up, and let's do something about it. Be the ally. Don't be there to help. Right.
Yeah.
So that's why when I spoke with this young lady, I said, the reality is sometimes it's hard. No matter what career you go into, if you're the only one of you, right? It's hard. Doesn't matter what the only one of you is. And so it requires a lot of self-awareness. It requires confidence. And this is, it's this other topic of imposter syndrome that hits. It doesn't matter if it's imposter syndrome because of my gender or imposter syndrome because I am in this room with a bunch of really, really smart people and I don't think that I maybe belong there. You belong there. You absolutely belong there. And the best thing to do is to get a buddy, right? And have that, once again, that community of support that are there for you, because everyone, no matter where they are, somehow they have that imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
So you're not alone.
Yeah.
But once again, I think first thing is recognizing that, hey, there is that. And so how can we help?
Yeah.
I like what you mentioned about the diversity. It's not just about gender, but it's about your background, your geography, your experience, how you think. And I've read somewhere that you call that radical collaboration. And would you like to elaborate on what that means?
Yes, this is that concept of, and it's so funny because I just went through some leadership training last week, which, by the way, I highly, highly recommend, right? Sometimes we all get kind of stuck in our day-to-day jobs and we don't take the time to necessarily step back and go, wait, how can I continue to grow, but not just grow my technical skills, but just grow the me, right?
Agree.
And sometimes you'll read through things and you're like, oh yeah, that's I know that's common sense. But sometimes we need a little, push to say, oh yeah, that's common sense, but I really should be doing that.
Yeah.
And then giving us tools to be able to do that. And for me, this concept of radical collaboration, it is so necessary and essential in today's world. everything is moving so fast. It is so fast. The rate and pace of technology, the just, the geopolitical situations that are moving fast, the need for innovation and in order to capture that market share, right? And then there are just so many uncertainties that are out there constantly. It's not that, oh, hey, it's just uncertain right now. No, this is the new norm. It's just a state of uncertainty. And how can we thrive in that? You can't do it alone.
Mm.
You can't do it alone. And that's not just as I'm an ecosystem. And so it's all about community and collaboration between companies as well, because when you bring, especially in open source and the ability to innovate faster from an open source perspective. So for example, with the OMP, once again, you might have a single thought and you might think it's right, but just imagine if somebody else came in and said, oh, but what about this? Oh, you're right, but what about this? Oh, but
Yeah.
what about this?
Yes.
And you never, ever would have gotten there had you not had what I like to call as your thinking partner, right? Now imagine if you had that thinking partner, but as an entire community. That's the power of open source. That's the power of community. It's this power of radical collaboration, because there are some things we all have a common problem that we all need to solve, right? And let's come together and figure out how do we solve it. That's why we've got the Mainframe Skills Council, right? It's bringing together. We know this is a complicated, complex issue, right? And there are many different ways of solving it, but we all have it. So let's all get together and get this brain trust together to come up with new ideas and new ways of thinking. Because when you come up with an idea and someone else then builds on that and you build on that and you build on that, that's true innovation.
Sorry, I agree with what you said with the radical collaboration, because when you have that kind of body and you basically like brainstorm ideas, you actually uncover like, you know, hidden tech talents or untapped talent pools, and it just grows and grows.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing, you always, that I think that is a spot on key point, because you think you might know somebody and know their background, but
Mhm.
until you start having this type of radical collaboration, you're like, no way, you do that. Oh gosh, you know what? I could use your help over here. I had no idea
Exactly.
you used to be a nuclear physicist, right? Or whatever it might be. And you're like, wow, oh, that's cool. Good to know. But you can't have that without this openness and the candor,
Yeah.
but candor with respect.
Yep.
Right? Because underlying every interaction has to be respect.
There's lots of transferable skills as well. So if we need to brainstorm on a problem, we need all of the different backgrounds and all of the different technologies that you know.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. And that's why I think it's so important from this collaboration perspective is it takes to truly be a radical collaborator, you to some extent have to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right. And you have to be humble and you have to say, I don't know.
Mm.
And that comes back to it's hard and this imposter syndrome. And sometimes when you've got this imposter syndrome, you don't think it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yes.
Or you don't think it's okay to say, I could use some help here. Right. But I think that anyone that comes to the table that says, hey, I need help in this area, here's my idea. So it shows, hey, I did look into this, right? And here's some ideas that I had, or here's what I was thinking, but I could probably use some help. What do you guys think? Any feedback, any ideas?
I totally agree with you, and I could resonate with what you said, because I recently moved to a PM position. So it's more of like a product manager position and it's a leadership position. And one of the things that scares me the most is admitting that I don't know anything. And so my question to you is like, have you ever like observed some of the shifts in women that are represented in a leadership role over the years? And if ever, what advice could you give these women, or including me, like, hesitating on taking on leadership roles simply because of that fear, or like the fear of, oh, I need to prove myself over and over again, or I don't know a lot of things and they might judge me for that.
Yeah. I think there's a study out there, right, where it said something like when there's a job description, and if a male looks at that job description and they can do about 30%, they're going to go for it.
Yes.
If a female looks at it and they can only do 75%, they may not necessarily go for it. Right.
Yes.
It's hard because you are taking that risk and you are putting yourself out there, right? And I think knowing that, quite frankly, others are in the same boat is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, having, if it helps, having kind of that trusted thinking partner, right? That you can say, okay, hey, I want to bounce this idea off you. What do you think? And then they'll be like, of course, that's a great idea. Go, say it, say it. And I've had that throughout my whole career of, I'm like, oh, I don't know, should I go for this job? Meredith, of course you should go for that job. You need to go talk to this person right now. You need to go do this. Okay, I can do it. I can do it. I mean, you need that person. You need your person with you, right? Whoever that person might be, and it might be somebody that's different. That's why also when we talk about hiring best practices from a hiring perspective, we always say hire in pairs. Right? So that individual, at least in pairs, so that person has somebody that they have that peer, they have that support. And so if you're feeling this way, number one is, and you don't feel like you want to speak up, or you're like, oh, I'm not comfortable. Find a buddy. Build that relationship. It could be somebody that you already know. It could be your mentor. It could be a sponsor, right? Just having that, it's just like when you exercise. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not always great at it. But it always works when I have somebody else. It's like, come on, let's go walking. And I'm like, okay, I'll go. And then the next time they don't want to do it, and you're like, no, come on, we're going to do this. When you have that support, it makes it easier to be more vulnerable. And the other thing is in how you say it, right? Perhaps sometimes you don't want to just go out there and go, okay, here's what I really think we ought to do. We ought to do this, and this. And then if somebody says, no, that's a crazy idea. One, it's totally okay for that. But if you're not comfortable doing that, maybe it's, I was thinking that maybe we could do this. Here's an idea that I had. Right. So then you kind of couch it with, I was just thinking, but here's an idea that I had. And then it opens the door for that radical collaboration. So that's, and then you'll have that, you build on it. And it also kind of gives you that more comfort and the way that you shared it.
Well, Meredith, thank you so much for today. Thank you for all of your answers. I am super happy that we have you as an ally and as our cheerleader as well, especially for me or people who are like me that wants to go into leadership, and thank you for providing those apprenticeships and mentorships and non-traditional pathways so that every underrepresented group have their own way to start. So thank you for that.
Thank you for sharing your story. Like, it's really inspiring, and that mindset shift of being intentional in what you do and how you advocate for yourself. It's really inspiring. So thank you.
Great. Thank you for having me on. It's been fun.
Yeah. And thank you so much for joining us in this episode.
Join us again next time. You will find links and resources from today's episode in the show notes.
Follow, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Mainframe Connect podcast and this episode in the Mainframe Coven 10-part mini-series sponsored by Phoenix Software International, and Vicom Infinity, a Converge company. Like what you heard? Subscribe to get every episode, or watch us online at openmainframeproject.org. Until next time, this is the Mainframe Connect podcast.